Welcome, everyone. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. We have a live coaching session on air today with Brenda, and her focus is really on becoming an entrepreneur, how to make that transition from working full-time for somebody else and getting a full-time paycheck to taking the leap of faith and working for yourself full-time. And the benefit is she does have a full-time job, so we really look at all the things that would be needed to make that transition, and then just some of the mindset pieces that people have, the beliefs that people have about what it takes or what they need, or the different factors in becoming an entrepreneur or even having a part-time business. Because at the end of the session, I even recommend to people that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. You can continue to give your gifts and do something on the side, and that could, for a lot of you, be as satisfying as having a full-time business. And for a lot of you, it's more realistic and more attainable than to actually take a full leap. So for anyone who has ever thought about dabbling in offering something on the side or becoming an entrepreneur, then today's show is for you. If you're interested in having one of these sessions on air, you can go to winafreesession.com and fill out the form. Again, that's winafreesession.com. And if you already know that you want to have some coaching on this, like for instance, today's show, Brenda and I did a lot of hypothesizing about things because what she really needs is a business plan and she needs a strategy. But for that, we need to get very specific. And I didn't want to ask her for all of her financial numbers, any debts, her expenses, what she's charging. Didn't want to ask those questions on air, not just because they're personal, but because there's a lot of them. And it would have taken at least 3 to 5 sessions to come up with some of the planning that we discuss on this show. So if you're someone who knows you need a little bit of help or you'd like the kind of coaching that I offer, you can go directly to jjflazanes.com/biz coaching, BIZ coaching, and fill out that assessment form to see if you and I are a fit. I'm not the right fit for everyone. I'm definitely someone who wants to help people grow and expand their business, but in true authenticity and not just about the money. It's not about making a lot of money at the expense of your health or at the expense of your authenticity and character. It's in conjunction with. And so for some people, that's different and it might require other introspection. I'm not just a business coach. It's a business and life coaching with, of course, health and wellness and consciousness as being the center of all of that. So if you know you are ready to look at that, you can go jjflazanes.com/biz coaching. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Welcome to the show, Brenda.
Hi.
Hi. So I don't really advertise this opportunity for live coaching on air. So it means to me that you probably listen to the show.
Yes, I do.
And which show do you listen to?
So I listen to all of them. I actually started with nutrition and alternative medicine, and then spirit, purpose, and energy. And then most recently, your podcast with Doug, which is a nice to get a male's perspective. So yes, all 3 of them.
Excellent. I love to hear that you came in through nutrition and alternative medicine, actually, because it means that the show is effective, right?
Yes.
It's not my most downloaded show of all of them, but it's sort of how the path I started on. So thank you for sharing that, since it's important for me to know.
Yeah.
So what moved you to want to have this session?
Well, I guess just the life path that I'm currently on. I'm currently have a full-time job in a corporate setting, but I've been teaching yoga for quite some time and recently got a Reiki certification and getting more into nutrition, and just feel like, that my life's purpose is to share this information with others. And I do teach quite a bit, but again, it's in like a studio where someone else owns a studio. So I'm kind of like, at the mercy of their, business. So I'm just trying to mold it all together and see how I can make this, into my own work, my own business, and share with others in a way that I feel connected and the way that I feel good about it, while I'm making money. So that's kind of where I'm at in life right now.
What's the current job that you're working?
I work for a development company. I'm a project accountant, so it's pretty demanding in a senior role, so that takes up a lot of my energy, and I'm lucky enough I work for an organization who work-life balance is very important to them, so I'm able to work out and eat a little bit healthier and talk about nutrition with coworkers. So that that's great, but there's still a missing piece. It's not something that I don't want to sit behind a desk for the rest of my life. Um, and I've always had this idea in the back of my head that one day I'll, incorporate this into a business. I'll be able to work for myself and, do something that I'm passionate about and that I can wake up, and be happy to do the work that I do and make a difference in the world and, help people, evolve. But yeah, I feel a little bit like stuck, now I'm like really thinking about it. Okay, now is the time, right? Because it's always been, sometime in the future when I'm ready. Well, will I ever feel 100% ready? I don't know. Now that I've gotten more, I've been teaching for about 8-9 years. I have so much experience. Before it was like, well, I'm not ready. I don't know enough. And now I feel like I know a lot. And I can share it with others. So there's that space in between that I just don't know how to move forward.
So you've been teaching yoga for 8 to 9 years?
Yeah. And practicing for a little bit longer than that. Yes.
Okay. And what else do you incorporate in your yoga training? You're teaching classes at a studio.
At a studio, correct. So I recently just started incorporating more of Reiki. And I've been getting a lot of positive feedback. Like I was a little bit scared of Reiki and because it's energy and, just not knowing what to expect and how the other person's going to receive it. So I'm like, well, this is a good way to start practicing, just incorporating into my classes. And I'm really surprised of like the positive feedback that I'm getting, even when I don't tell people that I'm, exactly doing Reiki till afterwards. And we kind of share and connect that way. And I can tell that it's helping them and it's also helping me. So that's a little bit of confidence where, I don't always feel like I have that, that confidence that, yeah, you do know something, you do have something to offer. But yeah.
So I see that your goals are to start up a health and wellness business and leave your corporate job, continue to work on your physical and emotional health, working out and mental health, and to gain confidence in yourself and your ability to create and manifest all of your desires, which is financial freedom, time to travel, teaching others more confidently, like-minded friends, and true connection. So which one of these, we can get all of them in at some point, but is there something that's really hot? Is it the business and about starting the business and having a plan for that? Is it about the companies? Okay.
Yeah, because up until now, like I'm starting to make a little more connections, but like really, I don't know anybody who's ever done something like this. I was kind of raised in a family where you work hard and, you work for somebody else. There's nobody who ever has started a business, owns a business. So it's kind of like outside of I guess what I've been around my entire life. Besides like listening to podcasts and reading certain things, there's no real like life, I would say like life experience or knowing another business owner that has a wellness, a friend or anything like that. So yeah, it's a little tricky for me to navigate. Like, where do I start? Like, how do I get this rolling?
Of course. I also didn't come from anyone who's done this either. And so I understand. So I've always had coaches and mastermind groups pretty much from the beginning when I learned about what that was and learned how to network and meet different people and different businesses and stuff, because it's true. There are plenty of mentors, coaches, books, courses, on how to do it. But unless you have real world experience doing it,
Right.
Someone can do it incorrectly, or there's no really incorrect. I shouldn't say that. There's no wrong way to do it. It's that you take the lessons, because what I always tell people is if you're going to start a business, just be prepared. It is the best mirror and self-growth tool ever, because you get confronted with asking for money, your self-worth and how much you charge, your constant belief in yourself when things go wrong, when something, you think doesn't work out, the lessons that you need to learn, the kinds of clients you're attracting, how do you handle change? So there is a lot to having a business, and it really tests your resilience. And for some people, I would say that it isn't the right choice for them, because if there are people who need stability, they need to know they're going to have that regular paycheck every month. Some people get frozen in fear when they don't know what to do, and which, of course, when that's how you react to things, you're probably not going to survive, because part of being an entrepreneur is sort of this constant growth of the next level, then the next level, and the next level. And also just figuring it out, figuring out what works for you, figuring out what you like. Like, it's all a test. And there is
Mm-hmm.
no right way. There's the right way for you, and then to test out. So there's going to be a lot of failures and mistakes and things that you didn't expect that are going to test your commitment to your mission
Mm-hmm.
and your commitment to yourself. Those would be the two I would say need to be intact for you to want to sort of reach out. Now, there are some people are very cautious, like Doug is very cautious,
Uh-huh.
and he's had a very high paying gig for a long time. And he's the kind of person that needs to have money in the bank, needs to know all his bills are paid. And he's not a risk taker, quite honestly. He
Mm-hmm.
does take some risks. And I'm using him as an example so people can hear that, we're not the same, even though astrologically he's got a lot of Sag in him and a lot of
Yeah.
fire, but he isn't necessarily a risk taker. And then I'm not saying, and that's good and bad. There's scarcity in both directions. And someone like me, I did have a part-time job when I moved to California because I left a pretty cushy situation in New York where I was working for myself, but I was working for a company, but I had complete control. And like, I had like three things going on. Like, I worked for like three companies. So I was making a lot of money. I knew a lot of people. I had a lot of influence. And then I decided to move
Uh-huh.
to California and start my business from nothing. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
knew nobody. I knew nothing. And I dive in, but that's me. I dive in head first, and that isn't the right way for everyone to do it. So the reason why I'm setting this up right now is because I want to talk about knowing who you are and what you need. What do you think you need in order for you to take the plunge? Is it that you need to have money in the bank? Is it that you need to have money in the bank plus a plan? Is it just the plan? Is it the confidence just in yourself to start charging more? Because I hear that you're teaching yoga classes, but what about doing one-on-one Reiki sessions? I mean, you could start testing out your one-on-one capabilities with people in your classes by offering them offer the sessions and then do those sessions after work on the weekends, whatever.
Yeah, well, that's actually where I'm starting next. So after getting some of that positive feedback, well, I'm like, well, let me go make myself some business cards and, put yoga on there, put meditation, the Reiki, and I've handed out a few, and I need to do better about when I, just building that confidence when I do have conversations with people, after a yoga class where they come and chat with me and, we may be talking about nutrition or whatever it may be. Having that confidence to be like, oh, here, by the way, here's my card if you ever want, you know, Reiki or whatever. Having that conversation, sometimes I don't feel like I have that confidence to, be like, here, this is what I offer in addition to, what I do here. But it's then going back to what you asked is also having the stability, because I do have a daughter. So I can't just quit my job and not have some sort of income, because I do have that responsibility of taking care of her and myself financially. So I guess it's a combination of the confidence, a little bit of money in the bank to get myself going, and then a plan. Like, I guess I don't really know, like, starting with a business plan, and then how do I build on and continue to move forward so that I'm not only growing personally, but also the business is growing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the benefit to having a full-time job now for you, and I didn't. I've always sort of worked for myself in roles that were like hour by hour base or tip based or project based. So I've never really had a corporate job for a long period of time. So I've never had that. But for the people that have that, if you have the ability to start saving some money and deciding that you have X amount of months covered, right? And it's not necessarily to create a cushion, because here's the thing about that. Yes, so you have a daughter, and you definitely need to figure that out. Sometimes people rely on that cushion and don't put a fire under their butt. I've got a friend
Mm-hmm.
who is a very dedicated Virgo. He wanted to do podcasting. He gave himself a year. He strategically set a plan in place. He did everything, quote unquote, right. And the podcast idea and his audience just didn't buy. They didn't buy. He couldn't figure out what to make, what to create, what to charge. I mean, they would buy like $7 products, but it wasn't enough for
Mm-hmm.
him to replace an income.
Right.
And he wanted to support, and he supports his family of three. There's, at the time he had 2 kids, now he has 3 kids. So it's 3 kids and his wife, and he's supporting them. And he gave himself a year. He had a whole deadline of a year when he was in the service. So he had money coming in that could cover him while he built this business. But a year wasn't enough time for him to now which forces you. He's doing something else now, and I think he's doing well at it. I haven't checked in with him recently, but the point is, he had this. He's a very hard worker. He's very smart. He's resilient, but sometimes those plans don't always go the way that we think they're going to. Now, that's not to discourage you to say don't do it. It's just that sometimes people do a plan and they think, well, of course, a year should be enough time. Well, who knows? And sometimes people don't actually do what it takes until they're under the gun, right? Until there is no safety. Now, for my case, I had parents who could help me out if I got stuck. And I've gotten stuck a couple times in the last 18 years I've been in business. Not for huge amounts, but I've gotten stuck. I've had everything that could happen go wrong, literally. And most of the time, I would have a little help. And then my soon-to-be ex-husband helped me out a little bit in 2009 when the crash happened. And all my clients really were personal one-on-one local clients who had money to spend. And then the real estate market crashed, and then that changed. So it really shifted my business. I didn't diversify enough. So there's definitely something to be said about having money in the bank, having a contingency plan, and possibly even having money in the bank and not relying on it. Like starting out with creating a plan, which, by the way, we can't really do here on the show. Like right now, I can't work out a business plan with you. But if I was to work out a business plan with you, here is what it would look like. And here's what I would recommend that you do or have some help doing. You're having your foundation covered, but figuring out and testing out different things that you can sell now that would come close to, being able to provide for you at a survival level, at least to start. So that way, that let's say you put that money away, but you don't touch it. So you pretend it's not there, and you build a business now. You start building your business now while you're teaching yoga, you're going to start doing Reiki. And what I'll say about some of the things people think you have to do, websites are important to a certain degree because they make you seem professional and established. But, the logos, the colors, the website, like that's all. And that's fun. That stuff is fun, right? But that stuff isn't going to give you the confidence to have a conversation with somebody. That stuff isn't why you hire somebody. I spent so much money, stupid money, on brochures and logos and logoed paper and t-shirts. I wasted so much stupid money that didn't bring me money. I learned the hard way on what not to spend the money on. And so you get into that, what's the right thing for you, and then trusting your intuition. And that's a big piece of what makes you happy, what brings you joy, how you have to learn along the way. Because as a teacher, as someone who is a healer and wants to help other people, for everyone listening who doesn't work for themselves, but you possibly want to help other people, maybe you do it through your job, that's a rescuer tendency. Well, the problem and the lesson and the opportunity for rescuers is that we take it very personally a lot of the time when people don't listen to us, or when they don't succeed, or when they don't heal, or when they don't follow through. And that's what I mean about owning a business. Starting a business is really going to challenge your ability to let go and provide your gifts, your talents, your education, your support, the way that you want to present your work to the world in a way that you learn to be confident about yourself, as well as lovingly detach from others' results. And it's not, you probably understand it in theory, but it's only time and through experience that it happens, because some people get really wrapped up in when people don't listen to them. So I would recommend that you definitely need a plan. Again, it's not something we can cover, even if this was a paid session, right? Like we have to look at your financials. We have to look at your timing and how much time can you start offering things, look at your different packages. First, and again, you can work on this on your own as well. You want to figure out what your bare minimum monthly expenses are for you and your daughter. And then, as I was mentioning, you want to put that away as if it doesn't exist. And at the same time, create a marketing plan and a business plan that brings you at least that much money. So let's talk about how you could bring in some money now, what you're charging, what your time frame is. Like, how much time do you have to dedicate right now to having business on the side?
Um, well, I have pretty much my weekends are open, um, and some like because my daughter stays with her dad on Wednesdays and Fridays, so like Wednesday evenings, Friday evenings, I have some flexibility at work where I work from home a day a week. So there's a little bit of time that I'm able to put in that time. I do teach probably like 3 to 4 yoga classes a week at the studio. So yeah, there's quite a bit of free time.
So obviously I would ask more specifically. I'm not going to ask this on the air, like how much you make at your corporate job, how much you're
Hmm.
charging, how much you're getting paid for the classes. Like I'd want to like look at that the numbers, because
Hmm.
that would be one of the things that if I had to go back in time and say what the most important thing I missed was, because I was really good at a lot of things, the customer service, the follow-up, the paperwork, the consultations, the actual doing of the training, of course, the marketing, I was good at all that stuff. The only thing I wasn't good at was what I needed help with. And I really should have hired an accountant, which I have now,
Hmm.
finally. And not just someone to come do the books. I had that, but someone to come and strategize with me, someone to come in and look at all the expenses and be creative about the expenses. And how can we cut expenses on one side, or just have a contingency plan for when business goes up and when business goes down, having reserves, having a line of credit, right? So there's a certain amount of investment that you're going to make in a business. And it doesn't have to be that you take out a loan. That's not what I'm suggesting. But there will be expenses that can help you plan ahead of time and what happens in this situation and the other situation. So, obviously, if you were doing this, we'd want to get really specific about the money. And I'm not going to ask you that. That's way too personal to put out there in podcast land, right?
Yeah.
So because there's also what happens when you're teaching group classes, especially if you're not teaching the class in a place where you're collecting all the money and you're
Hmm.
just getting paid per hour, is that you're missing the bulk of those finances and
Hmm.
what you could make, and whether or not it's possible for you to rent a place and then you charge per head. Anyway, because having a business is about offering a service, asking for money, but then also figuring out how to make your time more efficient. Could you do group Reiki sessions? Could you hold circles and groups and healing circles? And, there's a ton of ideas, and it's not, but to get specific, we need to look at how you spend your time and
Hmm.
what you're making now, what you're planning on charging for Reiki. And, when you're getting started, that's always a great time to, do sessions for a little bit less to start, to get the testimonials, to get the referrals, to make an agreement that maybe you offer someone a discounted rate for 5 sessions. And at the end of it, if they feel like they've had a good experience, then in exchange for the discount, they're going to give you a video testimonial. This would be a way to leverage what you're currently doing right now to build up your reputation and put things on YouTube and on your website and on social media to help you with marketing, because there are plenty of free ways to market. People think they have to have an advertising budget. You don't. You have Facebook and you have other, Instagram and YouTube, and there's all kinds of free stuff that you can utilize. It's just knowing how to utilize it, knowing which one to utilize, and then how to put those packages together, which of course, like I said, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to in today's session because it's super strategic. It
Right.
requires looking at your time, your money, your expenses, what you're charging, what you can build up to. There's just too much. So if there was something that you could get out of right now out of this session with me, because I don't want to go down a path of the what ifs and the coulda, shoulda, woulda, because that doesn't serve you. What kind of advice could I give to you? How could I help you right now get to a place where you feel you have a stronger foundation or better ideas, or something actionable?
So I guess since I'm kind of already started the ball rolling with offering Reiki sessions, maybe how I can continue that connection and the conversation of, for example, I had done Reiki on a couple people at the end of my class, and we had a conversation about it, and they're like, oh yeah, I would love for you to schedule a session with you. And I'm like, okay, great. And I gave them a card. I set myself up you know a email address just specifically for that, where we can exchange. I can give them some pricing and all that, but that hasn't led to a actual session booking. So maybe some help with how can I actually, finish and get them to come in, and so that I can offer that service and give them that Reiki. How can I reconnect, I guess would be my question, or
Yeah.
help that I would, yeah.
That's actually perfect. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back in business, I learned very quickly that you never give your card out
Oh.
because you expect that they're going to call you, and you're busy. I'm busy until I absolutely have so much pain that I need you. I'm probably not
Uh-huh.
going to call you. So you can have a business card, but business cards are pretty worthless. Don't ever join. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to leave that in. I'm not going to edit it because I want people to hear the passion behind what I'm about to tell you.
Uh-huh.
Um, when you go to certain networking groups, like I was parts of, I've done them all. Anyway, Chamber of Commerce is one of them. And the energy of some of the networking groups are not very good. Some of them are, because some people have actually taught people how to network appropriately. But where you come into a room full of givers versus a room full of takers, which is usually what happens when you have, and real estate agents are always really to blame for this too. Sorry guys, but you really are, you're pushy. You walk into a room and you hand everyone your card, and it's really bad. And I've never, nor will I ever use somebody that walks into a room and shoves their card in my face without having a conversation with me or without me asking. So now, while I understand that people have asked you for your card and you can give them your card, at the same time, you have to get their phone number, their email address, their name, something where you can connect with them on Facebook, Instagram, call them, email them. So you need to get their contact information and you need to follow up with them. So that conversation looks like this. Lead in with what they say to you after you tell them you do Reiki. What do they say to you? Tell me what they say to you.
Usually it's what I usually, what comes up for me, different things, if I feel something, if I see colors, and usually it's very similar to what they experience. So that's kind of like, whoa, they are a little bit like, not freaked out, but like surprised that, I share with them, this is what I felt when I was on your head, or when I was, doing the work or whatever. And then they start talking about that experience. So that's usually where the conversation starts, is what they felt and if it was a release. And then maybe we can start talking about what they're currently going through in their life, if it's, relationship issues or whatever. And that's usually how the conversation gets started, and we may continue on, but it's always about what they experience and what I experience, and that's how we connect.
Do you then tell them how you could help them move through that to the next level?
Um, a little bit, but maybe that's where I can work on a little bit more, is doing that.
Right. So if someone has worked with you and you have, and I hate to say diagnosis because we're not physicians, but you have an evaluation, an assessment, so to speak, and you can help them because that's why you're doing this business. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
tell them how you can help them or that you could help them, they don't know.
Okay.
People aren't looking for what they don't know exists, right? If you just said to them, oh, I see these blocks in you, someone could literally be like, oh my God, okay, and then walk away and be like, and you would think, well, why didn't they want to work with me? Because you didn't tell them that you could help them. You have to be able to
Okay.
say,
Yeah,
I
that
see these
makes sense.
blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see these blocks, and if you would like some help with it, I'd love to help you. And they go, okay, yeah, great. How could you do that? And this is where you need to have, I would recommend that you get one of those. I don't have a smartphone, so I don't even know what it's called. The charge card the thing that you run the charge card through, like for Squarespace and stuff, you put it on your phone
Uh-huh. Yes.
so you can run money, right?
Yes.
I would have one on you. I'd have one with you. I'd set up a Squarespace. Even before a website, you need to have a way to receive money. All
Yes.
right.
Okay.
And you need to make it easy for people. And most people don't carry cash. Nobody carries, unless you're 70, you don't carry a checkbook. So you need to have a way for them to take money easily, to make it easy for them to say yes. And they don't have to do it right. You don't have to set it up that they pay you right away. You can send them a link later or send them someplace. But especially if it's one-on-one in person, take the money then. Sign them up for something right then and there, and have your schedule with you and say, when would you like to come back in? I have this date and this date available. And then you make a schedule right then and there. I have a 1 session, a 3, and a 5 session package. Which one works for you? And then you let them sign up, and then they can pay for it right there. Or if you're, just getting started and you want them to come in, I'm a big fan of, part of it again is doing it is going to start to create the confidence, because when you get burned enough times is when you decide you're going to start taking money up front. And I take money up front all the time. I don't do anything without that. because
Mm-hmm.
people can cancel and not show up. And now when you are charging per hour, you're working, and somebody doesn't show up and you have a no show, you have no way of charging them. And then you've just lost that hour and an ability to make money and put someone else in that space. Service providers get screwed all the time because they're too nice and they don't
Mm-hmm.
ask for the money, and they don't ask for for you to guarantee your slot. Some people ask for a deposit, or they have the card on file. And then if you don't show up, there's a $50 charge or whatever for a no show. So it's
Right.
having clear boundaries up front, but leading them to the conversation of, obviously you're doing this work because you want to help people. So you have to be able to tell them how you help them. And and then offer it and say, would you like me to help you? And they can say yes or no. Part of, I'm going to be doing a lot more sales training in the next near
Mm-hmm.
future here. And part of the conscious selling methodology that we're working with on sales training is to really get to the place where, your business has to come out of, in order for you to sustain it and feel good about it, an authentic desire to help somebody, right? Like what you're offering, which I think you have. And the more confident you get about that, which is going to be doing it, continuing to do it more and more, the more confident you get, the more you can ask for, and the more comfortable you'll become asking for money. But regardless, you're valuable, your time is valuable, and you can help them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just learning how to have those conversations. So I'd say strategically, after you're done, say, hey, I saw this. Or what did you feel? Well, I can help with these. Outline, give someone very specific things. I can help with these 3 things. Would you be interested? And then the thing is, you have to not be able to need it, right? Like if someone, and I don't think you're there yet, some people are so pushy in sales that it turns anyone off, even if they need them, because they feel that sort of neediness,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
happens when you're in scarcity, which happens when you need to pay your bills. And so there's, again, something to be said about that you're taking this in a very smart way and sort of planning, and going to have a business plan, going to have a savings plan, going to have a marketing plan, going to have a package plan. All those things are in place so that you can have your cushion, but you're not going to use it unless it's a case of emergency. And you're going to build up your marketing and your classes and your pricing and your offerings to cover those monthly expenses. So that way you're making money immediately and then eventually figuring out your exit plan out of your business.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
Yeah, that
sense?
makes sense. Yeah, yeah, it does.
Now, sometimes you're going to run out of time. You can't really build a full-time business part-time, but you can build a really nice part-time business. You can do a lot of things with a little bit of time, but I
Mm-hmm.
also don't want to encourage you to have no balance in your life either. I don't want you to work on your own business where you're not sleeping. You have no downtime for yourself. Do you know what I mean? So there comes a
Yes.
point in which you do have to take that leap, where it's going to be the leap of, I got to make the jump, and you have to believe in yourself enough to make that jump and to trust that it's going to work out. And there may be bumps along the way, but you're going to figure it out. And you have enough tools, you have enough ideas, you have enough offerings, you have enough ideas about where to go to find people to become clients and referrals and things like that, that you'll just trust the process. It's scary, but you can't be too safe, because too safe means you won't grow. Most
Right.
people do not grow when they feel too safe. You don't want to be too risky necessarily, because you have to, feed another mouth. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a middle ground, and definitely with some financial planning and some accounting and some marketing strategy and package strategy and income strategy, you could absolutely do that. Now, do you have a time frame that you need to do this all in?
No, I don't, but I'd like to, give myself maybe like at the most a year to make that transition. I feel like I've been leaning this way for so long that it's like deep in my heart that okay, one day, and with the beginning of this year, I'm like, well, when is one day? Like it's now, right? So it's keeps nagging at me like, this is what you're meant to do. This is, I've always felt like it's, my it's in me to teach, and it's in me to to share, and people, especially the way that I was raised, and my culture, it wasn't about health and wellness and consciousness and thinking these different ideas and stuff. It wasn't something that was taught to me, and I'm not exactly sure how I landed here, but I'm here, so I feel like it's my purpose to share it with people who don't don't know, right? Some people just don't know any better, that they need to, the food that they eat might affect their mental wellness, and how everything, the body, the mind, spirit, it's all connected. So yeah, so within the next year, I would hope.
Okay. Well, the great thing is that you're already teaching part-time. You're already, halfway there to doing stuff. And it's now just making the stuff better and figuring out a cheap and easy and effective way to market it right now, to get your rates probably higher, to get more booked sessions for you, and to see the flow, and then to strategize the future. So I think that you're on a path that's good, and you're already kind of, it's just about making that plan. I mean, there's layers, right? It's not just the plan. You can have the perfectly laid out plan. That's not going to necessarily move the needle. I had no idea 2009 was going to happen, right? The market crashed.
Mm-hmm.
I was following a pattern in 2008 where I had personal one-on-one clients. I was closing a lot of packages. I was closing 50% of everybody that I saw. And then when the real estate market crashed and people stopped spending money on training and health things that were optimal health things, not just, hospital kind of things, then my business kind of crashed because I wasn't diversified. So I think that that's an important thing also to set up, is that you have multiple offerings and you have multiple funnels on which to grab new people, and you're not just doing one thing. You're not just working with one studio or having one type of offering. So keep that in mind too, as you start to continue creating things for yourself to offer people. And then the other thing that I'll say about, the second thing you want to do is to continue to work on your physical and emotional health. Oftentimes, I don't want you to get so out of balance that it becomes too cumbersome, because you'll lose the passion of the mission. So making sure that there's still time in there for you, and that you're not over rescuing people to the point where you become the victim of over giving and trying to get validation from other people's experiences.
Yeah.
You have to fill up your tank first. Otherwise you won't have any gas to go. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So what other questions? Let's give me a couple more questions about starting or, enhancing where you are right now.
Yeah, I have like this vision in my mind of, having the yoga, the Reiki, part of, mental wellness, but then there's also this nutrition. I'm vegetarian going on 3 years, and I feel so great. And again, that wasn't how I was raised. I was raised with, carbs, meat, and just not, a whole lot of fresh foods. But I don't really have any like formal training on any of that, just other than what I've learned and what I've researched on my own since I've, began practicing yoga and more healthier physically. So that's kind of where I'm like struggling. Like, do I need some formal training? Like, do I know? And I know enough to like offer just like basic, nutrition guidance to people who don't know about, eating healthy at all. So I don't know. What do you think? Does this like formal training, and what would that look like if I wanted to offer to make that part of my business plan also, is that nutrition portion?
Well, it depends on who you're targeting. So what we haven't talked about is branding and who your target market is. Did you hear the live coaching session I already did on the air?
I did.
Okay, so that was
a lot of what she said resonated with me too, but yes.
So that was Johanna, and she was concerned about having more formal knowledge in nutrition, but she has a very specific target that she's overcome chronic diseases and conditions that would put her down a path that doctors would say she shouldn't have really recovered from. So her life experience can be targeted to the same people who share those conditions that she has overcome. So it makes your niche that much more specific. So, again, in any marketing and service providing, if you're just Reiki, if you're just yoga, if you're just nutrition or vegetarian, then you fall into this big pool of people who then, yes, compared to me or compared to Jeannie Peters, you're going to need some nutrition education. But if you're marketing to people who are like, we have to figure out who you're marketing to, who's your client, who's your ideal client. What is that person? And do you speak their language? If it's just, I want to do this thing, whatever it is, and I don't care who I help, then it's going to be a long road to figuring out who the right person who's going to jump on your offers and who's going to resonate with your message and your mission is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think that the answer isn't to get education or not get education. I mean, education can't hurt. It's
Hmm.
always a great thing to get, but it's really, who are you talking to? Who are we building a business targeting for you? And it might just be it's you. It's someone who's just like you, but we need to
Yeah,
narrow that down to, where does that person hang out? What do they listen to? What are they interested in? And what's the problem that they have, or the pain that they have, that you can help them solve? And why are you the right person for them? Because one of the things about being in business, people have to understand, is that you're not going to be right for everybody. I'm extremely
right.
confronting. That's why I keep getting negative reviews, right? And I get that. I
That's why I love you.
Thank you. Well, and that's why, and
There-
and I had a client recently, and I'm not going to mention your name, you know who you are, who we did 2 sessions. And the first session, she had anxiety, and she's going to write a testimonial, so I'll be able to share it. But she had anxiety, and she went to 2 therapists before she got to me, and neither one of them could help her. She didn't feel like they were right. And she said, I don't know what to do. I said, yes, you do.
Mm,
And and it was a pretty extreme thing, but she did that extreme thing, and she doesn't have anxiety anymore. So like one session with me,
mhm,
basically, it's like she changed her whole life, because she understood that she had to solve some of the issues that she was dealing with. But not that many people take action so boldly like that. And
mhm.
so I know that, the people who listen to me, I have to be okay with getting a 2-star review, or a 1-star review, or someone that says I sell too much, or whatever. And that takes time. It wasn't something that I could handle right away. But when you get clear about your message and clear about your people, I mean, you heard the story, I'm sure, on the show. I wasn't going to step into being a law of attraction person. I mean, who am I to say I'm an expert in law of attraction? But the minute that I put it out there as a test, and it worked, and I got feedback that said, we think you are. And I was like, okay. But it took 20 years in business to get there, and every step of the way I kept growing. It's not a what's the right answer. It's, where are you right now, and how do we continue to grow you as a person, as a business owner, as a practitioner? And what is that path? How do we make money now? How do we serve people now? Who are we serving now? And then how does that change as time goes on? Not everyone is going to love you, and part of being, you have to be okay with that. Now, you don't have to be
Yeah.
as confronting as me, and that's okay. That's my personality. I've got a lot of Sag in me, and I have a Sag rising,
I
which means,
I actually am a little confronting though. That's something that I've not trying to take away from myself, but knowing that sometimes people aren't there yet. Like my sisters I'm very close with, and I try to give them advice, and sometimes it can come off very strong, and they might not receive it. But also knowing they're not ready to receive it, and it's not my job to try to shove it down their throat.
well, I'm
So.
glad you learned that lesson now. It took me 15 years to learn that lesson. So, and a marriage. Okay.
Well,
So
you helped me learn that lesson, if that makes you feel better.
thank you. Well, good. I'm glad. I'm glad that my pissing people off is helping all of you make peace with things faster, and let people be on their journey in the time frame that they need to be. So, great. There's just so many levels to all of this, and I think that you have a good head on your shoulders to keep your job, and to want to move to something you're more passionate about, and then to ask for some help with it, because it is about setting up a plan,
Mhm.
having all your ducks in a row in a way, but also knowing that part of this is going to be intuition, part of this is going to be risk, part of this is going to be not knowing, and allowing yourself to grow and learn in the process. And it's not for the faint at heart, but I still love what I do. I always have, which is why I keep doing it. And it grows. I look at it as it grows me too. And I get better and better as my life progresses, as my business progresses. So yeah, I definitely think that, when it comes to confidence, that's your last thing on this list here, gain
Mhm.
confidence in yourself and your abilities. Part of that's just the experience, and you can't rush that. What you could rush is having, I didn't know how to deal with someone threatening to sue me until someone did. And then I learned that lesson, and I learned he was bluffing. And then later on I went, oh, well, that's not a big deal now, right? I
Mhm.
had my car repoed when I was first in business, because I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know, because I had never had a car. And yes, I figured that if you don't pay the bills after a while, something bad will happen. But I was driving all over Southern California, whoever would pay me, and it wasn't
Mhm.
really the right way to do it. But again, that's how I learn. I crash and I burn, and then I go, oops, well, don't do that again. So part of it's a risk. And I see that you're an Aries, so you have that all or nothing kind of go mentality possibly in you. And there's fire. It's probably where you're confronting is because you got fire. Be interesting to look at the rest of your chart to see how to handle your business in a more balanced way, though, that wouldn't be so black and white. So that way you could feel like there is a gray, there is a balance, and this is how you could navigate that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else that I can help you with right now without looking at your finances, without setting up a marketing plan, without, doing all that stuff? What would be beneficial for you to take out of today that you can either take action on after we're done or next week?
No, do you have any other advice that you can give me just in general?
What stops you from asking for money? Is it really that you just didn't think to ask for the phone
I
number?
I think it's more of knowing my self-worth and knowing that I do have, that I do know more than I give myself credit for, right? Like just recently I was at the studio that I teach at kind of does these refreshers where they invite all the teachers in and they go through different training exercises and things like that. And I hadn't been to one in a really long time. And I knew a lot, I had a lot of input, and I knew a lot. So that was like, okay, you do know more than you give yourself credit for. So that's something that's been coming up for me recently, even going back to the Reiki and, just getting that validation from people that, yeah, I felt something and yeah, I felt a connection. So yeah, it's just, I guess, being comfortable with owning what I have to offer and what's inside of me and what I know.
Well, this again, you're on the right path. You're doing the right things. And when you get that reminder that you know more than you know, I want you to really receive it and take it in and maybe even journal about it or affirm yourself out
Yeah.
loud. So that way you can stand in that empowerment of knowing that you trust yourself, you're effective, you know more than you think you know. So that way in the times where you're going to be put in situations where you're not going to know something or where you're going to feel like I haven't experienced this before, so I don't know the answer to the question. And when that happens, you can just rely on and trust. See, I always used to bother me when people would make up stuff. Just if
Yeah.
you don't know, say I don't know. Like be confident enough to say I don't know, but I can find out. But for the stuff that you do know, you can own that. And again, part of it is going to be repetition, but I think that you affirming yourself, changing your mental chatter right now to say I'm learning, I'm in process, and it's okay. And I'm doing very well. And I know more than I give myself credit for. And maybe your practice every day is to do a journal that says all the things to remind yourself of all things that you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have a tendency to dismiss, and it's something that I've been working on lately is receiving when people give me compliments and sitting in that and looking at them in the face. And, if they come after class and thank me for a lovely practice and it was great. And sitting with that and saying thank you and acknowledging it and not like, changing the subject or looking for what was wrong in the practice or, self-critique and all that can happen when you don't feel like the class was 100%, great, but letting myself sit in that space of this was great and I'm going to take whatever they're giving me, I'm going to receive it and being there.
Excellent. You cannot be in business if you cannot receive, right?
Yeah.
So practicing receiving is because all these givers, all you people pleasers, all you rescuers who just want to give, and then you secretly just expect someone's going to either pay you for it or acknowledge you for it. Right. It's that lack of balance of the people who you're giving to are probably victims and they're not thinking about how you feel. So there has to be this energetic exchange of you learning how to receive. And I think this is perfect. So how do you feel about doing that practice every night?
Good.
Great.
Good. It feels like it would. Yeah, it feels good. Just when you said it, it was like, yep, that's it.
So right there, because not only you're going to learn how to receive compliments, receive accolades, receive money, and also receive ideas, receiving intuitive hits about someone to call or someone to follow up with, or an idea about a class or a location or a new thing, right? A new image in your mind. I mean, a new person you could, we haven't even talked about, and I know I'm sure you heard it on Johanna's show, like strategic partners. You could work with someone else and offer complimentary services and create a package. Anyway, I have so many, there's not enough time in 10 shows to go through the business ideas that I could come up with for you So of course, as I'm sure you heard on the last show, I will be sending you an email. And if you want to work further, I'd be happy to help you. You're going to need at some point, whether it be accountability, guidance, a mastermind group, something, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And you can do it, but it just may take a lot longer and a lot more stress if
Right.
you try to figure it out on your own. So it's just always nice to have someone who's already done it, whether it be me or somebody else. It's just that, having that accountability keeps you on track. Having the plan keeps you on track, and then you can figure out, what makes sense to you. And again, that's just like what you do with your clients, right? When you're done with the classes, when you're done with the sessions, because then we have to talk about what happens when you have a one-on-one session with somebody, how you roll them into the next package if they need it, and if you think it's the right fit. And that's a key thing. That it's the right fit and that they need it. This isn't about selling to people who aren't the right fit. This isn't about making money at the expense of somebody else. This is making money
Right.
you are giving and have value to somebody else. And everybody wins because you're going to work with them, because you're going to help them, and they need what you have. And I just want to make sure everyone's super clear as you're listening to the show and this advice that this isn't about just making money. That's not
Right.
This is about using your gifts and talents to help other people and yourself at the same time, and honoring your gifts and talents.
I was going to say that, the people that I have connected so far are people that need help. It's not like I'm, you know what I mean? Like I'm drawn to them. I, for whatever reason, even when I, put my hands on someone after class, it's usually a calling. Like I know that this person needs me to do Reiki on them. And then I figure out at the end that, they did need that. Just the other day I had a woman who was crying when I was doing it. So it's like, I have that intuitive, the intuition of who needs the help. So it's not just like, cold calling, like, hey, do you need some Reiki? Or hey, so it's that even exchange of the energy. So yeah.
And we would need to get you in front of people so that you can attract the right person too, right? So that's the other marketing strategy, is that for you to find ways to get in front of larger groups of people, and, so that way it's not confronting, and you can allow the right people who are attracted to you and your energy to come forth. So that it even makes it even easier, because they're self-selecting. It's not about you trying to target a certain person and trying to sell them something. You are making an offering, they're attracted to it, and boom, it makes business easy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, Brenda. Well, you're going to get an email. I appreciate very much that you have come on the show today, because I'm sure there are many people listening who think they'd like to take the plunge into becoming an entrepreneur and have a passion for something else. And again, like I said at the beginning of today's show, for some people it's the right thing, for some people it's not the right thing, and for some people it's a great part-time thing. It doesn't have to be a full-time thing. You can make money on the side, and you can figure out how to work, whatever job or career you're doing right now part-time. It's just about finding whatever the right balance is for you. And it's extremely individual. It's not a brush stroke against, across the board for everybody what the right thing is. So when you tailor your business and your life to who you are and what your needs are, that's the way to find the balance and the peace and the joy and the contentment and the groundedness about giving your gifts in a meaningful way while you're here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you and all that you do.